Richard Walker stands frozen in his marble foyer, watching his daughter Emma throw her engagement ring at his feet. The diamond skitters across the floor like a dying star. Her face is streaked with tears, but her voice cuts through him like glass. "You left her pregnant, Dad. Pregnant and alone, while you built your empire." The front door slams so hard the crystal chandelier trembles. Richard's hands shake as he picks up the ring. 24 years of being the perfect father, shattered in one conversation. He knows exactly who told her. Sarah Greene sits in her rusted Honda outside his mansion, watching through the rain-streaked windshield. She never wanted it to end this way. All she wanted was to tell Emma the truth before the wedding, to finally give her daughter the choice Richard never gave either of them, the choice to know her real father. Richard's security lights flood the driveway as he storms outside, his face twisted with rage and desperation. In his hand, he clutches a check. Sarah rolls down her window, and their eyes meet for the first time in 20 years. Before we continue with Richard and Sarah's story, I want to ask you something. Have you ever had to choose between protecting someone you love and telling them a painful truth? Share in the comments where you're watching from tonight, and if this story is touching something deep in your heart. And please, subscribe for more stories about the choices that change everything. Now, let's see what happens when the past refuses to stay buried. Richard Walker has everything money can buy. His tech company employs 12,000 people across 3 continents. His penthouse overlooks the city like a throne room. His daughter Emma is marrying into one of the oldest families in the state next month. But tonight, staring at the rain against his office windows, Richard feels something he hasn't experienced in decades: fear. The letter arrived this morning. Plain white envelope, handwritten address. No return label needed. He recognized the careful script immediately, even after 20 years. Richard, I'm coming to Emma's engagement party. She deserves to know the truth. Sarah. Richard crumples the letter for the 3rd time today. Sarah Greene. The name that never quite left his dreams, no matter how many sleeping pills he took or how many 18-hour workdays he buried himself in. He built his fortune on timing, knowing when to invest, when to sell, when to cut losses. But some mistakes follow you forever, growing interest like a debt you can never pay. 2 hours across town, Sarah Greene counts her tips from the diner shift. $43. Enough for gas to get to Emma's party tomorrow night, maybe a small gift. She's been saving for months, working double shifts until her feet bled in her cheap shoes. Sarah looks at the newspaper clipping taped to her bathroom mirror. Emma Walker, 23, announces engagement to James Sullivan. The photo shows a beautiful young woman with Richard's sharp jawline and Sarah's gentle eyes, a stranger who carries half her DNA. Sarah has watched Emma from a distance for years. School plays, graduation, college move-in day. Always careful to stay hidden. Always aching to run forward and claim her daughter. But Richard made his choice 20 years ago. He chose his reputation over their love, his future over their baby, his comfort over her survival. Now Emma is about to marry into a family that will never accept her if they know the truth, that her father abandoned her when she was 3 months pregnant, that Sarah worked 3 jobs to keep them housed and fed while Richard built his empire on Silicon Valley dreams. Sarah touches her reflection in the mirror. The years have been hard on her face, but her eyes still hold the fire that once made Richard Walker fall in love with her in their college dorm room. Tomorrow night, she'll walk into his world for the first time, not as the poor girl he left behind, but as the mother of his daughter,
The woman who raised Emma alone while he played king of the mountain. Richard picks up his phone and dials his head of security. I need background on someone. Sarah Greene, age 43, lives downtown. Everything. Financial records, employment history, who she talks to. His voice is steady, businesslike, but his hands tremble as he hangs up. Sarah isn't here for money. She never was. In college, she refused his offer to pay for her textbooks. She worked in the campus coffee shop instead, studying between customers, proud even when her shoes had holes. That pride nearly broke him then. It terrifies him now. Emma calls just after midnight. "Dad, I'm so excited about tomorrow. The whole family will finally be together." Richard closes his eyes. Emma's voice is pure joy, untainted by the storm coming her way. She still believes in him, still thinks he's the hero who raised her alone after her mother died in childbirth. The lie that built their relationship. The lie that let him sleep at night for 20 years. "I love you, sweetheart," he whispers into the phone. "I love you too, Dad. See you tomorrow." Richard hangs up and walks to his wall safe. Inside, beneath stock certificates and property deeds, sits a single photograph. Sarah at 19, laughing in the spring sunshine, her hand resting on her still flat stomach. They didn't know yet. They were still planning their future together, before the pregnancy test, before his parents' threats, before the scholarship to MIT that would disappear if he didn't handle the situation properly, before he chose his future over hers. Richard burns the photograph in his fireplace and watches their last innocent moment turn to ash. Tomorrow, he'll offer Sarah whatever she wants. $1 million, $2 million, enough to disappear forever and leave Emma's happiness intact. But even as he plans his strategy, Richard knows the truth. Sarah Greene didn't come back for his money. She came back for their daughter.
The engagement party blazes with golden light across the Walker Mansion's grounds. 200 guests sip champagne and admire the gardens where Emma and James will marry next month. Richard works the crowd with practiced ease, shaking hands and accepting congratulations. But his eyes never stop scanning for Sarah. She arrives at 8:30, just as the toasts begin. Richard spots her immediately, even though she's dressed simply in a navy blue dress that probably cost less than his tie. She moves through the crowd like a ghost, invisible to everyone except him. Sarah watches her daughter laugh with her fiancé by the fountain, her hand resting on James's chest as he whispers something in her ear. For a moment, Sarah's resolve wavers. Emma looks so perfect, so untouchable in her white dress and pearls. Maybe some truths are too dangerous to tell. Then Emma turns, and Sarah sees her own mother's smile, the same gentle curve of lips that used to comfort Sarah through her darkest nights, the smile Emma never got to know. Richard intercepts Sarah before she can reach Emma. His hand closes around her elbow, gentle but firm. "We need to talk. Now." He leads her to his study, away from the party's noise. The room smells of leather and expensive scotch. Sarah has never been in a space like this, where power hangs in the air like cologne. "You look good, Sarah." Richard's voice is careful, controlled. "I'm glad you're doing well." Sarah almost laughs. Her uniform still smells like grease from the dinner rush. Her shoes are held together with tape, but she stands straight, chin lifted. "I'm not here for small talk, Richard." He moves to his desk, pulls out a checkbook. Sarah watches him write, his movements quick and efficient. Everything about him screams success, from his Italian suit to his perfect haircut. The boy she loved is buried somewhere beneath all that polish. $50,000. He tears off the check and holds it out. "For your silence,
Emma doesn't need to know about the past. Sarah stares at the check. $50,000. More money than she's ever seen at once. Enough to quit the diner, go back to school, start over somewhere new. You think I'm here for money? Everyone has a price, Sarah. Even you. The words hit her like a slap. Sarah takes the check, and for a moment, Richard's shoulders relax. Then she tears it in half. The pieces flutter to his expensive carpet like broken promises. I was 19 and pregnant, Richard. I waited for you to call. For 3 months, I believed you were just scared, that you'd come back. I was 20 years old. I had a full scholarship to MIT. Your parents threatened to cut you off if you didn't abandon me. I know. I figured it out eventually. You chose your trust fund over your child. I chose my future. Our future. I was going to make something of myself, and then, what? You were going to come back. You were going to find us? Richard can't answer. They both know the truth. He never looked back, never wondered if Sarah had the baby or if she was okay. He built his empire on forgetting she existed. Emma deserves to know who her father really is, not the hero story you told her. The truth. The truth will destroy her. She's getting married next month. She's happy. She's happy because she doesn't know her father is a coward who abandons the people he claims to love. Richard's control finally snaps. I raised her. I was there for every school play, every scraped knee, every nightmare. I earned the right to be her father. You stole that right from me. The words hang between them like a blade. Richard stares at Sarah, seeing her clearly for the first time in 20 years. The exhaustion in her eyes, the calluses on her hands, the way she holds herself like someone who's been fighting too long. What do you want from me, Sarah? What will make you go away? Sarah's smile is sad and final. I want you to tell Emma the truth, tonight, or I will. She turns toward the door, but Richard's voice stops her. If you do this, you'll lose her too. Emma won't forgive you for waiting 20 years to tell her. She'll hate both of us. Sarah's hand freezes on the doorknob. For a moment, the weight of his words settles over her like a shroud. Then she thinks of Emma's laugh, so much like the mother she never knew. The grandmother who died believing her daughter was too ashamed to come home. Maybe, Sarah says quietly, but at least she'll know the truth. And maybe that's enough. She opens the door and steps back into the party. Richard watches her walk away, his hands shaking as he pours himself a drink. Outside, Emma is cutting the engagement cake, surrounded by friends and family. She looks up and sees Sarah approaching, her face open and curious. Hi, I don't think we've met. I'm Emma. Sarah takes her daughter's outstretched hand. I'm Sarah Greene. I knew your father a long time ago. Emma's smile brightens. Oh, you went to school with Dad? He never talks about college. There's a lot your father doesn't talk about, Sarah says gently. But maybe it's time he did. Richard bursts from his study just as Sarah begins to speak. Across the garden, Emma's face changes from curiosity to confusion to something that looks like the world shifting beneath her feet. Your father and I were more than friends in college. We were planning to get married until I got pregnant. Emma's champagne glass slips from her fingers, shattering on the stone pathway. The sound cuts through the party chatter like a gunshot. Guests turn to stare, conversations dying mid-sentence. Richard reaches them just as Emma's fiancé James steps forward, his face protective and confused. Emma, sweetheart, let's go inside, Richard says, his voice tight with panic. No. Emma's voice is barely a whisper, but it stops everyone in their tracks. Let her talk. Sarah looks at her daughter, memorizing every detail, the way Emma's hands shake, the way she bites her lower lip when she's afraid. Sarah used to do the same thing. I was 3 months pregnant when your father left for MIT. He promised to call. He never did. The words fall like stones into still water, creating ripples that spread through the crowd. Richard's business partners exchange glances. James's parents whisper behind their hands. The future in-laws who were supposed to welcome Emma into their family. That's not true, Emma says, but her voice lacks conviction. My mother died in childbirth. Dad told me. Your father told you what he needed to tell you. But I'm your mother, Emma. I'm alive. I raised you for 3 years before... Stop! Emma's voice cracks. Just stop. But Sarah can't stop. Not after 20 years of silence. Not after watching her daughter from parking lots and coffee shops, aching to hold her. He took you from me when you were 3. Said I was unfit. Said I couldn't provide for you the way he could. Richard's face drains of color. Sarah, that's enough. You had lawyers, Richard. I had nothing. You made sure of that. Emma looks between them, her world crumbling with each word. You took me from my mother? I saved you, Richard says desperately. Sarah was working 3 jobs, living in a studio apartment. You were sleeping on a mattress on the floor. I could give you everything. Everything except the truth, Emma yells back. The crowd scatters like startled birds, pretending not to listen while hanging on every word. Sarah watches her daughter's face cycle through emotions. Betrayal, anger, grief for the mother she thought was dead, confusion about the father she thought she knew. I came to every school play, Sarah whispers. I sat in the back so you wouldn't see me. I watched you graduate. I was there when you got accepted to college, sitting in my car in the parking lot, crying with pride. You were there? You were watching me? I never stopped being your mother, Emma. Not for 1 day. James steps forward, his hand reaching for Emma's shoulder. Em, let's go somewhere quiet. Don't touch me. Emma shrugs away from him. Don't any of you touch me. She turns to Richard, her eyes blazing with fury. You told me she was dead. You let me grieve for a mother who was alive. You let me wonder why I felt so empty, why I always felt like something was missing. I protected you, Richard says, but his voice sounds hollow even to him. You protected yourself, Emma shouts. You didn't want your rich friends to know you abandoned a pregnant girl. You didn't want your business partners to know what kind of man you really are. The crowd has gone completely silent now. Richard's carefully constructed world is collapsing in front of everyone who matters to his empire. Board members, investors, the society pages that chronicled his rise to power. Emma pulls the engagement ring from her finger and throws it at Richard's feet. It skitters across the stone, coming to rest near the fountain where she was laughing just minutes ago. I can't marry James, she says, her voice breaking. I can't marry anyone. I don't even know who I am anymore. She turns to Sarah, and for a moment her expression softens. I'm sorry. I'm sorry you had to watch me from a distance. But I can't. I need time to... Emma can't finish the sentence. She runs toward the house, her white dress trailing behind her like a banner of surrender. James follows, calling her name, but she doesn't stop. Richard stands frozen in the middle of his ruined party. His guests murmur and stare, their faces a mixture of shock and barely concealed excitement. This will be the story they tell for years, the night Richard Walker's perfect life imploded. Sarah watches her daughter disappear into the house, knowing she may never see her again. But for the first time in 20 years, Emma knows the truth. She knows her mother fought for her. She knows her father's love came with conditions. "I hope you're satisfied," Richard says, his voice empty. "I'm not satisfied, Richard. I'm devastated, but I'm not ashamed anymore." She walks away from him, through the crowd of stunned guests, past the fountain where champagne glasses are still abandoned. She doesn't look back. Behind him, Richard stands alone in his perfect garden, surrounded by the ruins of everything he thought mattered.
The newspapers pick up the story by morning. Tech mogul's secret past exposed at daughter's engagement party. The photos are grainy, but clear enough. Richard standing alone in his garden while guests whisper. Emma running toward the house in tears. Richard's phone hasn't stopped ringing. His publicist, his lawyer, his board of directors, all asking the same question. How do we contain this? But for the first time in his career, Richard doesn't care about damage control. He sits in his study, staring at the torn check pieces still scattered on his carpet. In 12 hours, he's lost his daughter, his reputation, and the respect of everyone who thought they knew him. Emma hasn't answered his calls. She's staying at James's apartment, according to the private investigator he hired. James won't let Richard past the lobby. The engagement is officially off. The wedding venue canceled. The invitations recalled. Emma's perfect future destroyed by the truth about her imperfect past. Richard tries to focus on work, but the numbers on his computer screen blur together. His assistant brings him coffee with shaking hands. The whole office feels like a funeral home. On Tuesday, Emma's friend Madison calls. She's flying to Portland tomorrow. She says she needs the space to think. Portland, where Sarah lives, where Emma was born. Richard books a flight before he can second-guess himself. He finds Sarah at the diner where she works, wiping down tables at the end of her shift. She looks tired, older than she did at the party. The stress of the confrontation has aged her overnight. "She's coming to see you," Richard says, sliding into the worn booth across from her. Sarah's hand stills on the table. "I know. She called last night." "What did she say?" "She said she needed to see where she came from, to understand who she was before you took her away." Richard flinches. "I gave her a good life, Sarah. A better life than what? Than the life I could have given her?" Sarah's voice is quiet but sharp. "You never gave me the chance to try." Richard looks around the diner. Cracked vinyl booths, flickering fluorescent lights, the smell of grease and burnt coffee. This is Sarah's world, the world he rescued Emma from. "I was 20 years old," he says finally. "I was scared." "So was I, but I didn't run. I came back. After MIT, I came back to find you, but you were gone." "When?" 2 years later. I had a good job, money saved. I was going to do the right thing. But you'd moved. No forwarding address. I moved because I couldn't afford the rent anymore. I was sleeping in my car some nights, working at a gas station. I couldn't take care of Emma properly. The admission hangs between them like a confession. Richard was right in a way. Sarah couldn't provide for Emma the way he could. But that didn't make what he did right. "I hired a detective," Richard continues. "He found you in Seattle. You were working at a hospital. Emma was in daycare. You were watching us? I was trying to work up the courage to approach you. But then I saw Emma on the playground. She was 3 years old, and she was so small. Her clothes were clean but old. She was sharing her lunch with another kid who didn't have one." Sarah's eyes fill with tears. "She was always generous, even when we had nothing. I watched you pick her up after work. You were so tired, Sarah. You could barely keep your eyes open, and I thought I could give her more. So you took her from me. I convinced myself I was saving her, that she'd be better off with me. And what about what I wanted? What Emma wanted?" Richard has no answer. He made the choice for both of them, just like he made the choice to leave in the first place. He played God with their lives and called it love. "She won't forgive me," Richard says quietly. Emma. She won't forgive either of us. Sarah finishes cleaning the table and sits down across from him. Maybe not, but at least now she knows the truth. She can make her own choices. What if she chooses to hate us both? Then we'll have to live with that. Sarah's voice is steady, but Richard can see the fear in her eyes. But she deserves the right to choose. Richard nods slowly. Outside, the Portland rain begins to fall, drumming against the diner windows. Somewhere in this city, Emma is preparing to meet the mother she thought was dead, to see the life she might have had. I never stopped loving you, Richard says suddenly. Even after all these years, even after everything I did. Sarah looks at him with infinite sadness. I know, but love isn't enough, Richard. It never was. She stands up and hangs her apron on the hook behind the counter. Emma's flight lands at 6. I'm going to pick her up. Sarah, don't come to the airport, Richard. Please, let me have this moment with her. Richard watches her walk away, knowing he may never see either of them again. But for the first time in 20 years, he's not trying to control the outcome. He's finally learning to let go.
Emma's visit to Portland lasts 3 days. Richard doesn't try to contact her. He doesn't hire investigators or ask for updates. He simply waits, staring out his office window at the city he conquered while losing everything that mattered. On Thursday evening, Emma calls. I want to see you, she says. Her voice is different, older, sadder, but somehow stronger. They meet at a coffee shop downtown, neutral territory. Emma arrives first, choosing a table by the window. She looks smaller than Richard remembers, wearing jeans and a simple sweater instead of her usual designer clothes. How was Portland? Richard asks, sitting across from her. Eye-opening. Emma's hands wrap around her coffee cup for warmth. I saw the apartment where I was born, the daycare where I went before you took me. Richard waits. He's learned not to defend himself anymore. She showed me pictures of us together. I was so happy, Dad. Even living in that tiny apartment, sharing a bed with her, I was happy. I know. She kept every drawing I ever made, every card. She has a whole box of my baby teeth because she couldn't bear to throw them away. Richard's throat tightens. I threw yours away. I didn't know you were supposed to keep them. Emma almost smiles. She told me about your parents, about how they threatened to cut you off if you didn't leave her, about the scholarship you would have lost. That's not an excuse. No, it's not, but it's an explanation. Emma takes a sip of her coffee. I understand why you left. You were young and scared, and your whole future was at stake. But I don't understand why you took me from her. Richard stares at his hands. I convinced myself I was saving you, that I could give you a better life. You did give me a better life, materially. But you stole my mother from me. You let me believe she was dead. You let me grieve for someone who was alive and missing me every day. I'm sorry. The words feel inadequate, but they're all he has. I know you are, but sorry doesn't give me back 20 years with her. Emma reaches into her purse and pulls out a small wooden box. She said it was something you made for her in college. Richard recognizes it immediately. A jewelry box he carved in woodworking class, sanded smooth and polished until it gleamed. He'd given it to Sarah for her 19th birthday, 2 weeks before the pregnancy test changed everything. She kept it all these years. Even after everything you did to her, she kept it. Sarah always was sentimental. She still loves you, you know. She told me so. She said she never stopped loving the boy you were in college, even though she can't forgive the man you became. Richard's eyes fill with tears. I never stopped loving you, either. Or you. I know. But love isn't enough, is it?
Not when it comes with conditions. Not when it requires someone else to disappear. They sit in silence, watching the city move past the window. People hurrying home from work, carrying groceries, holding hands, living their ordinary, honest lives. "I'm not coming back to San Francisco," Emma says finally. "Not for permanent. I'm going to stay in Portland for a while. Help Sarah with her medical bills. Get to know her." Medical bills? She has diabetes. Has had it for years. She's been rationing her insulin because she can't afford it. Emma's voice hardens. "While you were building your empire, my mother was choosing between medicine and rent. Richard wants to offer to pay for everything, to fix this problem like he fixes all problems, but he knows that's not what Emma needs from him." "What about James?" "James and I are taking a break. He says he'll wait for me to figure things out, but I don't think he understands what this means, how much everything has changed." Emma stands up, shouldering her purse. "I don't know if I can forgive you, Dad. I don't know if I can call you that anymore, knowing what it cost her. I understand. But I don't hate you. I want you to know that. I'm angry and hurt and confused, but I don't hate you." She leans down and kisses his forehead, the way she used to when she was little. "Take care of yourself, Richard." Emma walks away, leaving Richard alone with his coffee and his regrets. Outside, the sun sets over the city he built, painting the sky the color of endings. He pulls out his phone and dials his lawyer. "I want to set up a medical trust for Sarah Greene. Make sure she never has to choose between medicine and anything else again. It's not forgiveness. It's not redemption, but it's a start."